Right, we're going to tie a BULKhead Hollow, an ostrich version. Ostrich isn't really widely used these days. I think there's a bit of a misconception thinking it's not very durable, but in fact if you use enough of it, your fly will it will last in your fly for quite some time. So I think it's worth giving it a go. But what I would say is just be careful when you're unhooking fish, and try not to destroy your fly doing that, because I think that's half the problem. Folks unhook their pike or whatever the fish they're fishing for, and if they've got teeth, it tends to shred the fibres quite quickly, so just be careful there. So in the vise we've got an Arix PR, sorry, not PR, TP610, Trap Predator 610. This is a 2.0. You could use this on a salt hook. This is primarily a salt fly anyway. And the BULKhead Hollow is a Bopov fixed fly, which I've slightly adapted. It's very similar to the flies that Jason Taylor ties, actually. Similar principle, you reverse in the bulkhead. I think Jason calls it a BULKhead Hollow. I say reverse, others say hidden, all sorts of things. So I mean, it's just the opposite way of tying a bulkhead. So the thread can be anything. Mono, it can be GSP, Denier 610, not 610, 210. I don't use it for myself. I'm using GSP 100 for this one. And just want to add a little bit of glue. Now for the first tying point, we're going to use the longest bucktail I can find, which isn't particularly long over here. So it's probably about 4.5 inches. And I'm going to use, the longer hairs tend to be nearer the base. So I'm just going to take some fibres from here. Don't need a load, just enough to create a tail. We're going to be adding some ostrich over this anyway, so it's just there to support the ostrich. Again, when a bucktail, you take the under fibres out, the short hairs. I'm just going to give the ends a little bit of a taper and just trim off the butts. So like that, and then we're going to lay a few loosish wraps on top. Just use our thumb to push that bucktail round and make sure we've got a good coverage, which we have. And pull tight and tie that down. Next we're going to use some ostrich. Now I've got these long ostrich feathers that I picked up from a random feather merchant. I don't think they have many more, so don't ask where I get them from. I bought probably about 60 while they were on sale, and so they're quite long. So have a look around, shop around and see what you can find. Be surprised. Probably avoid fly tying shops, because you won't really get much for your money. Sort of feather merchants really is where you need to be looking. I bought a load of white and black. I'll probably end up dyeing some of these as well, just to have some different colours. So what I'm doing with this is longest ones, I'm just going to taper the ends. The fly is about 6 inches long, it's not particularly big. And we're going to put a few loose straps over the top, and we're going to spread this ostrich round as much as you can. It's quite difficult to do. Do your best. Like so, and then tie that down. I can fold a little bit and add a little bit of glue. Okay, we're going to tie a hollow now. So I'm taking bucktail from the mid. Just basically creating a collar for the next ostrich. So just taper those ends a little bit, Get rid of any super long ones, add them back in. So we want to come to around about here. Just tidy up those butt ends. And then we want to hollow this. You could tie it as a bulkhead on this piece, on this part as well if you really want it. But I tend to do the hollow on this one most of the time. And just feed that bucktail all around, make sure it's all secure, nicely around the shank, and then pull tight. Okay, push tool. And then come bring your thread in front and start building a dam. Now this fly isn't particularly wild in terms of flare, but I want a little bit of volume in there. That looks about right. So now you use whatever flash you want. You could use polar flash, standard halogen flash Shabu, but I'm just going to keep these flies quite low in flash, just because I don't have many that don't have flash. I'm just going to take some wing and flash from Hedron and just lay that over the top. And then just gives you a bit of shimmer to the fly, and then tie that in. I need some more ostrich. I'm going to use some slightly shorter ostrich this time. So I just need to measure up what I need. Probably about 10 feathers. Get rid of any broken ones. There's a few broken ones in mine. Then look at those ends and just give them a little pull. Just get some variation and taper there. We want to wrap that around, but not to the length of the first piece. We want to sort of build a taper. We want to try and blend that around. So we're going to tie a little bit hollow, just to give them a bit more volume. It's actually easier to manipulate the feathers that are all the way around the fly then and get a nice even distribution. Use your push tool. So, and come up in front. You don't need much of a dam, it tends to stay well back. Bring your threads forward. Next we're going to take some tan. We're going to start building the bulkhead now, or the reverse bulkhead, or the hollow bulkhead, whatever you want to call it. Now I'm looking for fibres nearer the base here, ones that have quite a lot of air in them. That's not always the case with bucktail. Sometimes you've got quite a lot of air all the way through the tail, so you just need to look at the tails and, you know, make a decision on what's best suited. So you want to take the guard hairs out. Now what I'd like to do this, I don't like that straight edge, so I just literally pull the fibres through a few times. That's all you need to do. And you can see that straight edge disappears then pretty quickly. So I'm just going to tie that in. Just use your thumb to manipulate the material around. There we go. And pull tight. A few securing wraps. And then use your push tool to push that back. And just build a dam in front of it. That will do. Now for our last clump of ostrich. So look at hairs nearer the tip. because they tend to be a bit finer. So I'm just going to take some of those and then get rid of any short ones and give them a little pull to taper. They tend to, you want them to sort of go all over the place in terms of the way they flow, because they do have a natural bend to them. So I'm just going to measure up, see where I want to go. So I probably want a little bit less than that, so I'll take a little bit off the end. And I'm just going to hollow tie, wrap them round. If I lose a few, it's not the end of the world. Like that. Get a nice distribution. Yeah, go forward a bit. Now we're going to use I think that's a mustard colour. So again, I'm going to take hair near the base of the tail. And these are quite long hairs, so I don't need all this. So I'm just going to take the guard hairs out, and I'm going to take these longer hairs and add them in to the main bunch. So I'm probably looking to about there. So I've taken a little bit off that, and I'm just going to do what I did with the first bulkhead tying. I'm just going to pull that through. You can see there's no straight ends then. So I'm just going to put a few loose wraps on top. Just use my thumb to push that round. Hold the butts and then pull tight. Now build a dam in front. I'll try and force that material back, so I'll build a fairly decent dam on that one. Like that. Once you wet this fly, they'll that bucktail will settle down anyway. And the last one, rather than go for the same colour, I'm going to go for like an orangey type colour. And this bucktail is a lot more wavier, has more air in it. So I'm going to take quite a bit more this time, just to finish that head. See, the denser the head, the slower it will sink. If you make it too dense, it will float. So I'm just going to take the guard hairs out. Sometimes it's useful just using a comb, just to get those guard hairs out. And in terms of length, that's about right. So I'm just going to, again, pull the bucktail hairs through, just to build that natural taper at the butts. Yeah, so we're going to come to about here. Now you could go forwards this way, or you could do what I'm about to do now and just reverse it. So just make sure your thread's not flat. So a few loose wraps. And we're just going to just make sure that bucktail's distributed properly, nice and even. Hold the butt ends and pull tight. And use your push tool. Push back. And then build a dam on the head, just to force that bucktail back. Like that. And then whip finish. Now if you want to colour that thread, you can do it. Probably need an orange, but I'm just going to give it a tan colour. Excuse me. Right, next step is to get sort of a long blade scissors and just give it a gentle trim. Now you can wet it and do it. Very often I'll give it a trim after I've given it a wet. It's up to you. You can just leave it as it is. But I just like to give it a little trim just to tidy it up. It's quite wild otherwise. Like so. It doesn't make too much difference. It just finishes it off nicely. So there we go. So that's a bulkhead ostrich, bulkhead hollow. I can't even say it. What I tend to do now is go and soak it in water just to shape it, and you'll end up with a shape like this, slightly less wild. This has been hanging near a radiator, so it dries to a nice shape. It's up to you, or you could just fish it how it is. Once they're dry, that ostrich will settle down, and you'll find it will narrow up a little bit and give it that nice, wavy movement. And an ostrich moves lovely in the water, and it's more durable than you think. So I hope you enjoyed that. Talk to you on the next one. Cheerio. Bye.